Boy, I tell you something. He says it right there, didn't he? When it comes to legalized bank robbing, I'm the best. Floyd Money Mayweather Jr. Ain't that something else? How you doing, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Hot Takes. I'm your host, Marcus, and we got a lot to get into. We're going to start with the fights that just happened. Now, I hope y'all didn't spend any money on that because that was wasted. Aside from Showtime having really bad service connections and nobody really got a chance to see the fight. And for those who did get a chance to see the fight, I didn't pay for it. Personally, I'm not going to lie to you. I watched it on TikTok. I had to kind of move around a little bit to anybody that was streaming it live, but I caught enough of it, you know. And, yeah, the main event should not have been the main event in my personal opinion. So that's just the thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. So, I mean, we really just sat there and paid $50. I mean, y'all, if y'all paid for it, spent $50 to watch Floyd Money Mayweather, one of the greatest boxers of all time, hug a YouTuber, Logan Paul, for 8 rounds. That's pretty much what happened. And the funny part is, there was no scorecard, so there could not be a winner or a loser. I mean, that's just pretty much what it was. I mean, it was all entertainment, like Floyd said at the end of the fight. As far as Logan Paul wanting to try to take some sort of credit for thinking that he won the fight because, his brother, Jake Paul, was all over his Instagram and all over his social media talking about my brother won the fight. No, there was no winner or loser. But what I will say is I don't have the tape to show it to you, but if you go back and you watch in the 8th round, Floyd knocked his lights out and held him up. So there's something to be said about that. Ain't no way in the world that you can convince me otherwise. Now, to me, the most impressive fight that I saw was this man right here. Sorry, a lot of order. Josenko, the former wide receiver for the Bengals in the National Football League. Never been a boxer before. Never had a fight a day in his life. He went 4 rounds with not just a professional fighter. I forget the guy's first name, but his last name was Maxwell. I remember him because I did a little bit of research on him, and he's a bare knuckles fighter. He's been a boxer to some extent, and he's an MMA fighter as well. So Chad Johnson, I like to call him Chad Josenko, but he walked into the situation and said, forget it, I'm going to go ahead and go for it. Now, he's done boxing before, but he's never really sparred before. Back when he was playing football, he did it for the footwork, he did it for conditioning. It kept him fast. And honestly, he looked like he'd been there before. So I don't know how much truth there is to Chad. Chad, I don't know, unless you took this real serious going into this, I don't know if you're telling the truth about this, but you look pretty good out there. As a matter of fact, the official scorecard, now remember, there are no real scorecards, but of course, somebody don't keep a card. In points, Chad beat him. The only reason people consider Chad the loser here is because he got knocked down, but he popped right back up like he didn't hit the floor, though. So that's, to me, in my book, for someone to come, the man ain't played no professional sports in quite some time. Matter of fact, the only thing he's done since retirement being professional is he has pretty much played FIFA against whoever, wants to play him. I guess either he plays for money or he doesn't play for money. I don't know. By the way, Chad Johnson, on the off chance that you're watching this, hit me up. Reach out to me on my YouTube. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and drop that link right quick. It's right there in the bottom right there. Hot Take Sports Podcast. It's on YouTube. Check me out. Share, like, leave a comment, please. I'm trying to grow this thing, man. I check all the comments. I respond to all the comments. But back to it. He was very impressive. And if he decided he wanted to fight again, I'd be watching because he showed a lot. I mean, like, more than I expected. I mean, he looked better than, apparently Jake Paul and Logan Paul take boxing very seriously. He looked better than them in his first ever fight. He looked better than both of them guys. And those guys are trying to, bring up some new fans for boxing. Because let's be honest, boxing has been a dying sport for a very long time, and every now and again you get a little excited about it. But this is just excitement, I guess, for the casuals. I mean, personally, I would call myself a casual. But the real fights, I'm up for those. I'm only here for the real stuff. But this was fun. Now, while that was fun, we're gonna get into basketball. Now, Earlier this year, I said that Luka Doncic should be an MVP candidate and he should win it. That did not happen. But the consensus pick at the end of the season, everyone would have had you thinking it was going to be Steph Curry because of the way he carried the Warriors into a playoff situation. Not the case. The numbers didn't necessarily back him all the way up, but that was very impressive what Steph Curry did. But Nikola Jokic, a.k.a. the Joker of the Denver Nuggets, he took it home. And not only that, but he got his team in the second round playing against the Utah Jazz right now. So, I'm sorry, no, the Phoenix Suns. I apologize. They're playing the Phoenix Suns. And even though they're down 1-0, it's going to be a pretty good series. The only way I see this not being a good series, now, both teams are going to play well against each other. The only thing I really wish is that I wish Jamal Murray was healthy to play because that would make this a serious thing because I would love to see a fully healthy Denver team because they also don't have Will Barton. I would love to see them play against a fully healthy Phoenix team. And to which Phoenix isn't 100%, but they're closer to it than Denver is. Speaking of Denver, they did play Portland in the first round of the playoffs. But before I get to there, I'm also going to give a big shout out to Coach Tom Thibodeau, who actually made the New York Knicks relevant. He won Coach of the Year. Now, I thought they were going to give it to Monty Williams, coach of the Phoenix Suns, who went from last year in the bubble, they went undefeated and got nothing for it. And he took them to, I think it was second place in the West. That's a huge jump. And they eliminated the Lakers. So I thought that maybe that he had it in the bag, but no, actually it goes to Tom Thibodeau because he went from a team not being in the playoff conversation at all for last year's bubble to not only being a fourth or fifth seed, but he made the team relevant again. He took a bunch of cast-offs that nobody really wanted, honestly, and he took them to the playoffs. And they put up a pretty good fight against the Hawks. I mean, they lost, but no one expected them to win in the first round anyway. We figured that they would be out, but, it's his year one. And Julius Randle has a lot to prove because he did not play well at all. He didn't have any bounce-back games. He tried too hard. Now, some people are saying that Julius Randle will not be a number one. He probably isn't going to be a number one going forward. They have to find their number one. But right now, he's pretty good for the moment. The problem is when they really needed him, he came up really small, and that's because he was forcing it. Remember, he's still, he's not young anymore, but he's still relatively young, and he's never really been in the playoffs like that before. So everything was kind of riding on him. He got them there, but he couldn't. He just didn't have it. But he can be one heck of a piece to make sure that you have it going forward. So shout out to Julius Randle and the whole New York Knicks squad. Y'all going to be good going forward. Honestly, I'm really rooting for them because my guy Obi Toppin, who I thought was going to shine this year, who unfortunately didn't get a chance to shine so much because of Julius Randle, but I think he'll be fine and as it goes forward. Now, as I was just saying a moment ago about the Denver Nuggets playing against the Portland Trail Blazers, they eliminated the Trail Blazers. And here's some interesting news. So, Jason Kidd is the Lakers' assistant coach, at least for now. He'll probably be looking for a head coaching job at some point in the very near future. If not, he'll be with the Lakers again next season. We'll see what happens. But Damian Lillard requested, he wanted Jason Kidd to be his coach, to which Jason Kidd said he's flattered, but he will be declining. I understand why he's declining, but it's not for any reasons like, it's an uncomfortable situation for him, But I'm going to tell you why Dame Lillard wants Jason Kidd. Development. There's an MVP and DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year, out there in Milwaukee by the name of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jason Kidd developed him. Personally, I think Jason Kidd is the perfect coach for a lot of young players. Like Jason, the one thing people don't know about Jason Kidd is he's big on development, which is why I've always envisioned him. Like if I'm going to veer off a little bit here. Lonzo Ball is one of my favorite point guards to watch play, mainly because you never know what you're really going to get, but he's become more consistent as the years go on. So I always felt like if Jason Kidd could get a hold of Lonzo Ball, we could really see him shine. Lonzo's not really offensive the way everyone wants to make him be aggressive like that because his game is predicated on playmaking, a lot like Jason's was. You know what I'm saying? And defensively, he really showed out. So I'm waiting to see if he's going to be first team defense this year, and if he's not, I'm calling it rigged because there's no way that the only player in New Orleans that played any real defense does not get first team. And he was one of the best defensive players all year. But like I said, I went off a little bit there. Sorry about that. This is about the Trailblazers. Where do they go from here? Because some people are, of course, the reason they're looking for a coach is because Terry Stotts and the Portland Trailblazers brass have decided that they're going to part ways, and which is fine. Which honestly, let's call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. He got fired. He basically got fired, and it's fine because he only had to do one thing, and he just did not do it right. But for whatever reason, he didn't preach defense. He didn't emphasize defense enough because the Trailblazers didn't guard anybody on the perimeter. They just let people shoot threes, and this is a 3-point driven league now, thanks to guys like Steph Curry and Damian Lillard. Logo Lillard. I mean, seriously, like you have to protect the perimeter as much as you would the paint. And I think that if you got Jason Kidd in Portland, one player I would look to see really get better would be Yusuf Nurkic. He could probably stop being such a baby. And I'm not saying that derogatory. I don't think he's a baby, but like there's a reason why he was traded from Denver to be in Portland. He couldn't, him and Jokic were there at the same time, and only one of them could play for real because they got in each other's way. When it came down to it, Denver said, "Fine, we'll keep the Joker." But that doesn't mean Nurkic is a scrub. When he's healthy, he's one of the best he's one of the better big men. I won't say best, but he's one of the better. I put him on the same plane as Miles Turner, maybe a slight bit higher, but I mean seriously, he can really, really play well. But if you got Jason Kidd as his coach, we watch him take off. He might reach the level, maybe not MVP, but he might reach somewhat of a quasi level of what the Joker is. Because I always saw them in the same vein, honestly. Of course, the Joker's a better passer, but offensively, in the paint, I like Nurkic a little bit more. Regardless, since we're staying on this subject, you might notice this team. Look, these are all the same players, but look, on the bottom line, you got last year's championship Lakers squad. You got playoff Rondo. You got Dwight Howard. You got JaVale McGee. And I can't even believe I'm saying this. You got Danny Green. Danny Green was awful last year. I'm not going to sit here and act like he was any good last year. He was horrible in the bubble. I don't know what happened to him. It was like watching Space Jam and like the Monster stole his ability to shoot because he sure enough couldn't do it. I mean, bricks and air balls for days. I mean, he could have single-handedly lost them the title in the bubble last year. My Heat could be the champions right now, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to look it up. We're going to look up, though. Notice these 4 players from last year's championship squad were outed so the team could get better. Something that I never understood. And I'm talking about teams led by LeBron James. Now, I'm not a LeBron James fan. I'm not a LeBron James stan. I'm also not a hater. So take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt if you can. For some reason, LeBron doesn't seem to understand. I'm calling him out because even though he's not the GM, he has heavy influence over the positions that the teams put themselves in because they're angling around him and what he can do for the team to make them better, I guess. And it made no sense to get rid of these players. I understand that you want to get the team younger and better, but when you go younger, you're not going to be better. Now, I understand they had to bring in Anthony Davis, but to bring in Anthony Davis, like, they didn't have to do it. Like, these players could have stayed on the team because I'm sure all of them would have came back for minimums. They've made their money. Like, all these guys are like borderline retirement level. But regardless, they're still making impacts for their teams that they're on this year, their respective teams. Notice something. All 4 of them are still in the playoffs. LeBron just went home. And now the Lakers' futures, like, the players are unsure now. Kyle Kuzma might get traded, which honestly, people, I'm in the camp that says he should have been traded a couple years ago, honestly. As a matter of fact, I wasn't in the camp when everyone said that. I wasn't in that crowd that said that, oh, he's better than Lonzo Ball. The rookie year, he was better. He was more polished. But I knew for a fact he wouldn't be able to sustain that, especially when LeBron got there. That just wasn't going to happen. I didn't see Lonzo taking off the way he did defensively. Didn't see that happening. But since we're talking about the baby Lakers, let's go ahead and get to it. Can you believe it? And they traded it for 1 ring. The Lakers really sacrificed the baby Lakers. I have to say this for sure. This is a me thing now. It's just my opinion. This roster you see, Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell, Josh Hart, Larry Nance Jr., and Thomas Bryant. I loved all of these players, and I still watch them to this day on their respective teams. They will always be the baby Lakers to me. You got Julius Randle, just led the New York Knicks back into relevancy with his coach Tom Thibodeau, and I'm not calling him a sidekick, but player out there with him, Derrick Rose, the veteran with him. Okay, along with that young team, R.J. Barrett, you know what I'm saying? Obi Toppin. Randall was the lead on that. Okay? That's crazy. Brandon Ingram, B.I., him and Lonzo Ball are tearing it up. Whenever the problem they're having is coaching. And I'll say it just like that. It's coaching. Because Stan Van Gundy is not a developer of talent. Stan Van Gundy does not play well with he does not coach well with young players. He never has. Okay? Shaquille O'Neal said the same thing that Dwight Howard said. He's the master of panic. When things don't go his way because he feels like the players aren't, receptive to him, he panics and he starts throwing tantrums, which is what he did. It's what he did in New Orleans. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's what he did in New Orleans this past year. Same thing he did all those years ago in Orlando with Dwight Howard. Stan Van Gundy is not the best coach for this team specifically. Jordan Clarkson, 6th man of the year this year. This man, and I have to give it to him. He's been put through the ringer. He's been on team after team after team. He's been thrown to the side, and he just don't stop shooting. Honestly, he's turning out better than I ever thought he could have. D'Angelo Russell, once he's healthy again, and those Minnesota Timberwolves are rolling because they got Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, we call him Ant-Man. Once he's rolling, because he had a really good rookie season, honestly. Here's the thing. I wasn't surprised they had a great rookie season. I was surprised that the team didn't do as well. And I don't blame that solely on injury. Injury had a huge deal with it. But that team has a lot of promise. They usually do anyway, but Ant-Man that team looks different with Ant-Man on the floor. All they got to do is figure out how to make it work. Okay? So D'Angelo Russell, he reminds me a lot of offensively of how James Harden plays. No wasted motion. He can hit it from outside. He can get to the inside. Like you said, he got ice in his veins, and he's been saying that since he was a rookie. Josh Hart, big time role player, could actually start on a few different teams, but you don't want him playing, you don't really want him playing the lion's share of the minutes at the 1 or the 2 for that matter. So he's coming along really well. I think he is what he is at this point. He's a solid rotational piece. Larry Nance Jr., I can't say enough about this guy. Honestly, he's probably one of my favorites out of these guys because, in my opinion, he's a small ball 5. He's a regular 4. He can step out here to 3 from time to time. You don't want to put your money on that. But athleticism is crazy. He reminds me a lot of his father. Anytime he jumps in, anytime he skies for a rebound or he's going, to just dunk on someone, man, it's like taking a trip back in time. All right, athletically gifted. He got that honest. Daddy gave that to him. Thomas Bryant, though he is coming off of an injury-plagued season, the man is going nowhere but up. And Washington is the perfect spot for him. I still can't believe, and like it says at the bottom of that, they gave all that up for 1 ring. The question is, will LeBron James get another ring in LA before he retires? It's possible, but it's not probable. And the problem is Anthony Davis. And it's not because he needs Anthony Davis to carry him. He needs Anthony Davis to simply be healthy. Something that he's had a problem with his entire career. And until that changes, it's going to be a struggle. Last year was an anomaly. It was the bubble season, which is why everyone puts an asterisk next to it. And I understand that. They put an asterisk next to my Miami Heat for even making it that far. I get it. It was an isolated situation. But something that's been reoccurring is Anthony Davis's health. And that's not going to stop being a problem going forward. If I'm the Lakers, I might be looking to move on from Anthony Davis, especially if it'll net me something really good in the process, but they're not going to do that. They spent Like all that they lost was to achieve getting Anthony Davis. And they got it. They got him. And they got one ring. Can they do it again? It's possible. Just not probable. All right. Another news. We're going to go ahead up here. If they keep up with me. We're going to stick to basketball for just a little bit longer. Now, earlier I mentioned Luka Doncic. And I thought that they were going to I honestly thought that they were going to put the Clippers out. Which is why I said in the last episode that if the Mavericks can get to the finals, it doesn't matter who their opponent is, they would win. But they got to get past the Clippers first. To which at that time, I was confident they were going to get past the Clippers. I thought they'd be done in 6. I really did. Lo and behold, Luka Doncic is out. And honestly, it wasn't even his fault. Some people say Rick Carlisle. Some people say that the Clippers just came up big. I blame it. And I'm sorry, I usually don't play the blame game here, but I'm going to play the blame game right now. Kristaps Porzingis, where were you at, man? You averaged 13 points. You're supposed to be the second best player on this team. Tim Hardaway Jr. played better than you the entire series. Now, some people say that Rick Carlisle didn't really call nothing for him, but to be 7'3", he's 7'3". He doesn't want to be a 5. He doesn't want to play the center position. He wants to stand on the perimeter and shoot threes. Unfortunately, you can't do nothing with that because you have to be able to move out there. He doesn't necessarily have the ball handling skills to play a 3. And as a stretch 4, you still got to get in that paint and bang around with the big boys when you need to. He doesn't want to do that. I understand he got hurt in New York years ago, and it's probably made him a little conscious, and he doesn't want to really get hurt like that again. But, hey, toughen up, big guy. This is basketball. You chose this. Or rather, it chose you, height and everything. Regardless, it doesn't make a difference. You're making millions and millions and millions of dollars, man, and you let that team down. You let Luka down. Now, it says here that he's frustrated with his position or his role on the team. He felt like he felt like he was an afterthought. Now, here's my thing. You can't play like an afterthought and then say, I feel like an afterthought as the co-star. You are an afterthought. Get aggressive. Do what the team needs you to do. So there's also word saying that there's a chance that the Washington Wizards might be interested in making that trade. Now, the question is, I have this for Wizards fans. Are you willing to part ways with either young assets like a Denny Advia or Rui Hachimura? Or Daniel Gafford, or some future first-round picks, or God forbid, they find a way to throw Bradley Beal in there, because I know y'all don't want to give up Bradley Beal. You might be willing to trade Russell Westbrook, but Russell Westbrook is not going to work out in Dallas simply because we saw how Dennis Smith Jr. worked out sitting next to and trying to play next to Luka Doncic. It don't work. Luka needs the ball. Okay, he distributes. He also scores. So you kind of see where I'm going with that. So I think we leave Russell Westbrook in Washington. Now I don't see a lot of scenarios where the Wizards come out on top here because I'm going to be honest with you. Trading for Kristaps Porzingis at this point, you don't know what you're going to get. Are you going to get New York Knicks version where he was like all-star, he was the guy, or are you going to get 2021 Dallas Mavericks version? Where he's been crowned. Last year, there was a joke, but it was a serious joke going on around Paul George, calling him Pandemic P. Well, the new Pandemic P stands, is for Kristaps Porzingis. The P is for his last name. So are you getting New York Kristaps Porzingis, aka the Latvian unicorn, or are you getting 2021 Pandemic P? I don't know who you're getting. And if I'm a Wizards brass, I'm looking at that and I'm going, so if I make this trade, I have to find a way to hold on to Bradley Beal, Denny Advia, Rui Hachimura, Daniel Gafford, and not give up my entire future. You'll probably lose some of those players because Dallas could use some of them. At the same time, they're going to request certain players. And if when the Wizards aren't willing to play ball with that, there might not be a deal at all. I'm just saying. Again, Kristaps Porzingis, he's not a bad player. Maybe he just had a bad year. Maybe he didn't fit this year. Maybe it is Rick Carlisle. Who knows? because there was some rumblings about a little bit of a tiny bit of a rift between Luka and Rick Carlisle about something about a timeout that Luka said don't call. Now, I will say this. Luka Doncic needs to figure out where he is because he's a very young man, very talented young man playing basketball. I get it. Here's the deal. Coaches coach, players play, and you have to respect one another. Luka showed me one thing this year that I did not like, and I'm sure a lot of basketball aficionados saw this too. The kid's hot-headed. I get it. He's young. He's very emotional. Tensions run high with him very easily, but he definitely needs to keep his cool. Got a lot of texts this year. Rip some jerseys, stare some refs down. You can't do these things. Yelled at a few refs as well. I don't even know why. And then they had the audacity to look around like he didn't do anything. So Luka's a little bit of a hothead. So I'm sitting here going, well, it can't be Rick Carlisle. It can't be Rick, because I've seen too much of this negativity coming from Luka, and I get it. He wants really badly to win, and he's carried that team. Literally, I've said this before in separate conversations, but Luka Doncic is this year what we saw. Luka Doncic is to Dallas what James Harden was to Houston. He's carrying the team, but without help, he can't get you there. He can't get you all the way there without help. He can take you to a certain point, but he needs help. Like, it's a team sport. Whew. Well, for the final bit of news, we take it to the NFL. Last week we spoke about the trading possibility of Julio Jones. Well, it happened. And as a joke, I made it part of my hot take, but I didn't really put any energy into it because I didn't know where he was going. Honestly, I did not see Tennessee. I just didn't think that, because the reports were, and this is really, really good work by the Atlanta Falcons. The word was they're looking for a first round pick, and I'm sure they were looking for a first round pick. I think they got a second, a sixth, and maybe some other draft picks in between. But they gave him up, and I think it had more to do. It was a cap situation, but Tennessee just got really, really good. Now, on offense, because that defense is still going to be trash. That defense is going to be terrible. Last year, Tennessee could have went all the way to the Super Bowl, but the defense can't stop nobody. That's what happened. You got the best running back in the game in Derrick Henry. You have A.J. Brown on one side, and now you got Julio Jones on the other. Now, Ryan Tannehill showed up pretty well last year. Now he doesn't have to try so hard. You got Julio on one side and AJ on the other. What I mean, you ain't gotta be good now. You're good. I mean, just chuck it up there. Somebody coming down with it. So Tennessee potentially could put up about 35, 42 points a game. But their defense can't stop nobody, and ain't gonna help none anyway. So, with all that being said, I do have to have a hot take. Hence the name of the show, Hot Takes. Right? So for this week's hot take, I left something out earlier. And I left it out for this reason and this reason only. In the Brooklyn Nets series with the Milwaukee Bucks out there in the Eastern Conference, James Harden went down in Game 1 in the first minute with a hamstring injury. I believe it cost him something like 28 games earlier this year. So this is not going to be taken lightly. He's probably going to miss a few games. He might miss this whole series. To which I will say this: they don't need James Harden to beat the Bucks. But going forward, because I expect him to meet Philly. And Philly's got their hands full with the Hawks right now, but I don't think the Hawks got enough to stop Joel Embiid, provided he plays the whole series. And Tobias Harris is showing up right now, so I'm really proud of him. But the hot take is this. If James Harden misses too many games, if this is a serious injury, things could get really dicey for Brooklyn going forward. And I still got them coming out of the East at this point. I got them coming out of the East. But if they meet Philadelphia, that's going to be rough. Because Philadelphia has the best chance of beating them at this very moment. They got Ben Simmons on the prime minutes. He's offensively, he's a little limited. Tobias Harris is playing well right now. The kid Thibault is playing pretty well right now. I haven't heard too much about Seth Curry as of late. But I'm sure when it's his time to show up, he'll show up as well. Of course, Joel Embiid. They ain't got nobody to stop Joel Embiid. I don't care how far back Blake Griffin wants to turn that clock. They have nothing for Joel Embiid, and then you can do with him. I don't think it's gonna be that serious, but like I said, the hot take is if James Harden misses this full series with the Bucks and into the next series against Philadelphia, things will get dicey for them. James Harden, make no mistake about it, James Harden is the key to this offense. They can move without him, but without James Harden, it ain't the same. He has the key to this car to make it run. And, seriously, Kevin Durant is the best player. Kyrie is a one-man show. But James Harden is the key that unlocks that team's greatness. You don't believe me? Go to the tape. That team is different when he's on the floor. They flow easier. They don't look like they're trying so hard. Joe Harris looks like he's a beast when he's out there. Actually, anyone playing with James Harden, it doesn't have to be KD or Kyrie. He makes him look better. And with that being said, if they do indeed meet Philadelphia, which I expect them to fully meet Philadelphia in the Eastern Finals, if there is no James Harden, they're not getting past Philadelphia. I don't care how great Kevin Durant is. Because without James Harden, Kyrie has to become everything James Harden is and keep up his scoring pace, as well as they're going to need help with that whole bench. That means Blake Griffin's going to have to give them 18 points a game, 10 boards a game at minimum. They have to make up for the playmaking. The playmaking has to be made up for somewhere. Without James Harden, they don't make it. So that's been another episode of Hot Takes, folks. I love y'all. Please hit me on YouTube. Hot Takes Sports Podcast. Share, like, leave a comment. Like I said before, I do read them all and I do respond. All right? And until next week, peace, folks.